Can you promote the podcast that you paint sip?
I will. I'll stand up and do like a 10-minute diatribe about Chip Lunch
The terrible words. Don't ever go on there with those two annoying males.
Diversity for the win.
You want to do a clap for us in front of the in front of the microphone?
Oh, in front of the microphone. 3, 2, 1. She's on.
She's on. Ready to go? There's nothing that's off limits?
Nothing that's off limits. Let's go.
Let's go. Let it rip.
Yeah.
Tell all, let it rip. It's the Chip Lunch podcast, and welcome everybody back to where we talk about being Christians, especially people at Soul Revival Church, which is really exciting. And I'm joined by my usual, or one of the usual co-hosts, Braden, when he decides to be on.
Where you were going?
I'm just like the constant these days.
Just the usual. Wow.
Wow. Okay.
So don't say anything. I haven't introduced you yet.
Well, that's
what I say to all my
that's
guests.
not my brand.
Well,
Sorry.
So on brand.
So on brand.
Being so on brand.
Yes.
Nikki, how are you?
I'm great.
Yes.
I'm out of the house and seeing people's faces in person. It's fabulous.
Excellent.
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, you're the people's faces in your family don't count.
Well, you know what? Not after, 27 years of being in lockdown. Like, it was a lot,
Is that what you describe your family life as? Has been 27 years?
It feels like it. Sometimes it feels like it was no time at all. And then other times it's like, oh, can you stop with the chewing? Just like for a moment. Just. But yeah. But they're great. I love them all. But yeah, it was a long lockdown, but it was fine. But yeah, getting back out and seeing people and,
Speaking of chewing,
we
always like to ask questions. Braden, you want to ask a question?
Yeah, ask the question.
But normally you say, okay.
Ask the question.
I don't know if I can live up to this. Okay.
Ask the question.
Nikki.
Yes.
How do you take your chips?
This is a great question.
Oh, thank you.
And it really, so it's a two-parter for me.
Whoa.
So what I like to do is to ask for the chips to be extra crispy. So I really want that golden, like crunchy hue, like the little off-cutty bit. I want that to be like really crunchy.
You're like, leave it in the fryer for extra 3 minutes, please.
Please, extra crispy. And then I like not a light dusting, but a heavy, heavy snowstorm of chicken salt.
Yes, mark another one up for the good guys.
There's a battle on the Chip Lunch podcast between plain salt and chicken salt.
No, chicken, because you've got to have a bit of sweet in that saltiness. No, 100%.
Why is it called chicken salt? It's nothing to do with chicken.
Salt. It's got chicken stock in it.
I don't know.
It's got chicken stock in it, has it?
Yeah, it has. But also, like, there are like seafood sticks don't have like seafood. They have a mishmash. Like seafood isn't a thing.
And then you go to a battered salve. And
do you know that, fun story, my dad went to England and he taught the English how to make battered salves because they didn't know what it was. And he was like, but that's what I want. So let me teach you. Get that Frankfurt, get that batter, and let's put it together.
At like a fish and chip shop?
Yeah.
Let me show you.
That's the Bob Watt story. Anyway, we're not about him, but it probably will be. And then, so I have the snowstorm of, and then, you know what? And it depends on the mood. I do love a separate vestibule of barbecue sauce. Oh yeah. And then it's just a real balancing of, sometimes you need to, tap the salt. You need to it's a balance.
Tap the salt.
Well, if the snowstorm's gone blizzard, you do sometimes need to just do a little tap, a little ashing. I was going to say, not that I'm a smoker, but but people don't even know how to smoke anymore. It's all about vaping. But,
sorry about that. Yeah. I look at how you're a smoker, but you complain that people don't know how to smoke anymore.
Don't know how to smoke anymore. Says me, who, here's a fun story. When I left home, my act of rebellion, I remember consciously, 18, went to university in Bathurst. I was like, I am going to take up smoking.
Wow, really?
I was just like, this is what I'm going to do. Yeah. And I bought a pack of cigarettes. And I don't know, how many cigarettes are in a packet? Let's say there's 20.
Is it 24 or something?
Something like that, 24, 25. Yeah. I think when I left university at the end of that year, there were 23 in the packet. I wasn't even good at
And they're all covered in the phlegm after you coughed up your lung from smoking the first one.
And I did those really like
looking cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway. Yeah, what's the next question? I've gone way off topic.
We only have one more question left,
Okay.
which is,
Yes.
how did you become a Christian?
This is a great question, and
Thank
I've
you.
been thinking about it. I'm assuming I'm the only person you've asked, so
Yeah.
thanks for helping
This is
me.
This is episode 19, 20,
Okay, well, just like me,
19.
I
just
think 19. So we
it's
have
number
asked it.
22.
2020.
20.
20.
I was going to say two.
Yeah.
Was it
the
22?
peanut gallery over there was
two
telling
ducks?
us.
Two ducks walking?
Yeah. What is it?
don't
The
know
bingo
bingo.
thing.
So
22, two little ducks.
yeah,
That's
two
what
little
it is.
ducks. That's it, right? So from bingo to Christianity,
Yes.
it's a really easy leap.
Not
Did you
that
win?
far of a jump.
You know,
You won the lottery?
I did.
Mhm.
I won the Lord lottery. So when I was at the end of year 7, I had a wonderful friend who I'm still friends with. Her name's Jodie, and she was like, "Hey, do you want to come on a camp with me? It's going to be really fun." And I was like, "Yeah." It was down at Jiroa, and I was like, "Yeah, great, fabulous." And then, like, I remember distinct, like 2 weeks before we went, she's like, "Oh, and you have to pack a Bible." And I was like, "What?
Ugh.
What is that? Like, what?
Yeah.
And so that is really how I was you know, I was that kid it'll shock you to know I was that kid in scripture that was like, you know, really ratty and asked all what I thought were hard questions, but I'm sure like,
Give us one, come on.
Well, here's the thing that really, and I'm sure she was a wonderful lady, and when you're like 9, you don't really understand what it is to be elderly. But the scripture teacher told us a story about how she had forgotten to take the plastic off the cheese, and then she'd made a grilled cheese sandwich, and I was like, I don't know if I can trust a woman that doesn't know how to take plastic off cheese.
Doesn't know how to make a
with
sandwich.
my salvation. I don't know. Do you know? Like I just remember having it really kind of undercut her message for me. I know
Oh.
that's terrible, and the Lord can work through anything, even plastic cheese. So anyway, I digress.
Did she eat? I wonder if she ate it. That's why she was maybe
Did
telling
she
me.
take a bite out of it? Is that when she realised?
I want to say she did, because that makes the
or
story
did she
funnier.
go to cut it?
I think she went to cut, but surely it would like.
I can't imagine an elderly lady not cutting the sandwich.
And when I say elderly, like, you know,
Yeah,
when you're
yeah, you're
7,
9, she was probably
she was
30.
like 34 and like living her best life. I don't think she was. She in my mind she was older, but I just remember going, I'm not going to listen to you. You don't even know how to make toasted cheese. So I was that kid. I was that annoying kid. And so I went to camp, and it was just this whole different world to me. And then I guess there was a part of me that made a commitment to be a Christian. But then I feel like, and I don't know if other people have said this, I feel like there was like a real recommitment.
Yeah.
And I was really lucky. I had a really great group of Christian friends at school, and there were times when I'd be like, am I doing this because I believe, or am I doing it because everyone else is?
Yeah.
And so when keep in mind I told the cigarette story, but there was when I went to Bathurst and I was completely on my own, that I went, yeah, no, I think this is, this isn't just a thing that I do with my friends. Like, that I'm a Christian, and to navigate that. But, my teen years were, I wanted to say difficult. I don't know anyone that had easy teen years. I think they're lying if they say they are.
Well, they were the cool people at school, if that was the case sometimes. But then they've always got their own thing anyway,
but cool
right?
people, yeah, exactly. They always do. And so, like, for me, I don't want to sound like a sob story, but my parents separated, and like I had challenges, and I feel like I would often say that making that commitment at the end of year 7 was really God looking after me for the years that were to come, because there were some tough ones, and he gifted me with an amazing family, with my mum and dad, who I love and adore, but gave me really great Christian family and brothers and sisters. I'm an only child, so to have that love and support, and just a place. I knew you were going to ask this question, so I have been thinking about it, and so with what was happening when I was younger, I did have to grow up very quickly and make adult decisions and things. And but really church and youth group and it really gave me a place where I could be a kid and I just didn't have to worry about any of that stuff. And so it was a real kind of safe haven, and it's why I'm so passionate about youth ministry. I think it just gives kids such a safe place to be.
Yeah.
And I think now more so than when I was a kid, like there are less and less safe places to be yourself. And so I think that's one of the gifts that being a Christian has given me, is to be myself.
So when you first went to this camp, what were your first thoughts when you went to that camp with your friend?
That everyone was just kind of normal.
You thought it was going to be different because you had to take a Bible.
Yeah, and I think, I thought we were all going to eat toasted cheese with the plastic on. Like, I think you do just kind of have this preconceived idea of, and again, I relate it back to what my kids, so I have, for those of you who don't know me, and why don't you? I don't have that confidence. I don't know why I said that. I'm so sorry. I have 3 children, Luca, Tara and Alana.
And your husband, Paul.
And my husband, Paul, or as he is also known, Cuzzy. And I've totally forgotten what I was saying about that. What was you say?
Going to the camp?
Going to the camp. Oh, yeah. So the preconceived notion about Christians being buttoned up and this and that and, brown cardigans. Whereas I feel like what's great about here and the youth here is that notion doesn't exist. That, and my best friend, we used to play a game which is like you'd be out and you'd see a group of people and they'd have nothing in common and you go, that's a youth group outing. Oh, yeah. They'd be like, that's a group of Christians.
Yeah, because there's this one thing that's common, which is Jesus, right?
Yeah, and it's that one thing that's unseen.
Yeah.
And so, so I kind of was wary, but then I just had so much fun and there was just so much, like, the people were really genuine and really genuinely, like, cared about you. And I don't know, there was something about it and it just... it resonated with me. And I think we all, I'll speak for myself, can't speak for anyone else. We intrinsically know there's more.
Yeah, that's the thing that I feel like even before I became a Christian. Yeah. Yeah.
And so then when someone goes, and it's this, it makes sense I feel like the thing that makes sense is that that we are God's children, and that that we need to come back to Him, and that we've done things to like sin and things like that, and so when we're reconciled with Him, there is a kind of sense of like, oh, okay,
yep,
and so that part is very simple, but then like when you throw a rock in a pond, it's then how do you then navigate that in the rest of your life? That I think is maybe where the challenges lie. Well, it did for me anyway. Like it took, I'm not going to lie, I was no like angel. I'm still who is. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You are who you are. You're just saved. And so it was just navigating that through those years. And I was just really fortunate that the times where I was like, I don't think this is for me, that I just had really great leaders and great friends and people that just like loved me. And whether that was like rebuking me or like whatever it was, they just loved me and got me through it.
That's cool.
Yeah.
You said that and you started going to youth group from that Year 7 camp. Did you start going to church?
I went sporadically. I didn't go often because it was just a scheduling thing. So as I said before, my parents separated and I joined scouting, and my dad was the scout leader, and so that was the one opportunity a week I got to see him, not because it was a messy divorce. It was just that my dad's bad time management. So like I'm not even kidding. Like one time, so as I said before, I'm an only child. He was 24 hours late picking me up. Like there's only one child to remember, and I'm pretty unforgettable. But like so I kind of prioritize that. But I would always go to the camp, and I'd always go to church. But youth group, not so much. And again, you know, I had people that would come and pick me up and take me to church, and you know, I wouldn't be where I am today without those small things that you kind of go, oh, it's just a lift, but it, you know, it kept me in a regular church attendance and fellowship, and
And that comes like the basis of that comes from love, like basically knowing that you're loved by God. Which is a really cool thing.
And the other thing, and also, I'm not going to lie, and I feel like it's still the same, but it was also a bit about boys.
Okay. Flirting and converting?
Not that I flirted or converted anybody. But gee, I gave it a red hot go. I really didn't, but I just remember the lift thing reminded me, and I will make sure that my friend Jody and Alison watch this, but one of the leaders had a Suzuki Vitara, and we were so obsessed. And
really?
He would pick me up often, and I'd be like, yeah, no, I came in the Vitara, yeah. It's like 14-year-old Nikki's got game. Like, no, not going to happen.
Suzuki Vitara, though. Like, why
were
that?
Obsessed with the Suzuki Vitara. Well, mainly the person who was driving it, Stuart Hannah. So anyway, that was fun. So there was a little bit about the boys too.
Okay. So what about, like, you were saying you're going to youth group through high school, but like high school was pretty difficult. Do you want to just tell us more about that?
Yeah, I guess, as I said, you know, my parents separated, and I was, you know, the only child, and so there were a lot of times where, and my mum and I are incredibly close, and we joke about it all the time, like, I raised her as opposed to she raising me. And you know what I actually really think is that we raised each other. And so, you know, I just remember always being different because my parents were younger than a lot of parents. They were one of the first people to separate or divorce. And so it was just really uncharted territory. And there were times where my mum wasn't well, and, you know, I don't want to paint a terrible picture. Like, there were times that it was, like, hard, but I always knew they loved me and were doing the best they could, but just, you know, some days were...
But even, like, it's a formative time, and, like, you said, you're an only child and then your parents separate. Like, there's a lot of stuff going on for you just to navigate. Yeah, and you also just want to be the cool kid and want to be in the Vitara.
Yeah, be in the Vitara with the hypercollar t-shirt. Yeah, I'm old.
Is that why you called your daughter Tara?
No.
I'm going to start calling her Vitara.
But here's the funny part, right? So, spoiler alert, I'm married. Sorry. And so, I don't know why I said that.
The apology.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah. Sorry, guys, if anyone was interested.
So, cuz my husband, we grew up in the same church, but we didn't grow up in the same circle. So he's significantly older than me. Not really. He's like 4 years older than me. But when you're a teenager, like that's...
Yeah, that looks way older.
So a lot of his friends were the people that...
Vitara lads.
Vitara lads. And so that me and my friends would have crushes on. And so we got together. We've been married a significant amount of time. I even think I'd had Alana. So like... That was 12 years ago. And so Cuz was like, we're going to have a reunion. We're going to have a reunion of like the Gridiron guys.
They're all going to come over. Gridiron,
yeah, he played Gridiron, yeah. He's like, we're going to have a reunion of the Gridiron guys and they're going to come over. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, who's coming over? And he listed off the names. And I was like, can I ring Jody? And he's like, what? And I was like, I need to call Jody. He's like, who? Like, I'm not joking. My whole voice and it was like 30-something-year-old Nikki left the building and 14-year-old Nikki was like, I can't believe they're coming over to my house. I was like, what is wrong with me?
You're like,
So
are they coming in a Vitara?
and so I was like, I texted Jodie. I was like, dear 14-year-old Jodie, this is 14-year-old Nikki. Guess who's coming to my house? She's like, because we like, again, I just remember at this camp. So just know I've always been me. Like I've always, so, and this story will demonstrate, because you know how like I'm crazy and do crazy things because it's funny. And
I'm not going to go on a podcast and say a woman's crazy.
oh, well, you know, like zany, sorry, crazy.
Okay.
Zany.
Zany's good.
Zany,
I like
okay,
zany.
you can say zany. Okay,
Yep.
so zany things. So, and I also just don't have a high tolerance of like, like fluffing around. Like just, if you want something, do it. Or if you need something, ask for it. Like none of this like, I don't. So we're at camp. And I'm not mentioning any names, but
What year were you in, first of all?
I feel like I was in year 8.
Okay.
So like 14.
Yeah.
Peak Nikki. Peak Nikki, if that's even possible. And so my friend Jodie wanted a picture of one of the leaders. And she was like, and so they've been, and kids, back in the time, this is when cameras had film in it. So it was a real commitment to like, you had to go to the pharmacy. You had to, like, it was a whole thing to get it developed. Anyway, so she's like, I go, right, fine. What? Who is it? Right, that guy? Okay. And I just like literally went up and went, can I please get a photo of you? And he was like, what? And I was like, for my friend, I just need to get a photo of you. But the brilliant thing is he's just standing there, but I'm in the background. Like this, like, you better take that photo. Like my hands on my hips, like, yeah. So I've always been me, and that's silly kind of like.
How much of your family situation has shaped that, do you think? Like, because you always got your personality, right? But then your experience and your upbringing always like shapes that too.
Yeah. So I feel like part of it is being an only child. And so when I was 4, we went around Australia for 6 months. And so I just had to make friends. So we'd roll up at a caravan park, and I just, you know, otherwise I'd be that sad, lonely kid.
Yeah.
So I feel like that really shaped who I was, who I am. And then I really, and it's really sad, like I just think it's just like the laughing clown, you know, like if you're making other people laugh, then people can't see that you're sad or that stuff's going on. And so there's probably like an element of that. And then I distinctly remember when I was like 16, and again, shocking to know, was in public speaking competition. This is another fun boy story. I'll tell you after this. So, and I did this outrageous speech, again, shocking. And
On what was the topic?
the topic was why parents were embarrassing.
No, okay.
And I remember like there was a line in it about pads and tampons, and like it just shocked everybody that I would use such words. Like,
Really?
so
Wow.
stupid, yeah. Whereas now if I did it, it'd be like menstrual cups and whatever else is, and period underwear, I don't know. Like, so anyway, and so...
Brandon's looking very uncomfortable.
Sorry.
It's part of life.
It is part of life. You need to
It's natural bodily function.
It's natural. We have period parties at our house where we have red. Just do a,
Is this stolen from Bert Kreischer? He's a stand-up comedian.
Yeah. And so we had everything, all the food, red velvet cupcakes. I highly recommend. And what was great was I'm not going to anyway. And so we can't wait for the next one. It's great. Anyway, sorry, I digress. So, and they said to my mum, she will lose that. She'll become more reserved. She'll lose that kind of like not caring about what people think. And I just never have. I think I just kind of heard it and went, yeah, I don't think so.
It works for me.
Yeah. And I must admit, like the being funny thing, I think I used to be a lot like more putting people down. I'm a lot more conscious of not being cruel. With the humour of this, you know, like amongst friends and stuff. I'd like to think I'm not cruel. I'm probably just like really truthful, maybe. I don't know. But I remember again, like a Christian friend said, "Yeah, that's not okay." And I was like, but it's funny. And they're like, I don't know, like if that's how you're going to make people laugh, like is that really, do you want to be cruel? And I was like, you know, and I make the joke, like I'll always take, you know, funny over kind, which it's actually not true. It's the opposite, like, but that's just a funny joke, which is why I say it.
Yeah.
So, sorry, you were saying, yeah, look, I certainly felt very alone, and yeah, there were times that I just didn't know what was going to happen. Like, I just didn't know what was going to happen with my mum.
Did you kind of create that persona to, like, make you feel less lonely, you reckon?
Yeah, 100%. And just that classic thing of, like, if you make them laugh or you make the joke about you, then
People will want to be around you.
yeah, and that you're the first one to make it, so they can't make it. So, you know, like, yeah, it's just about it was really that I mean, it's so sad in the cliche of it all, but it's just that
I don't think it's sad.
laughing clown. Well, you know, everyone likes to think they're, you know, a special snowflake, but really, and I'm really fortunate that my trauma response was to be funny and
that's better than sometimes there can be a lot more insidious and destructive. Yeah.
And I certainly think, like, you know, had it gone other ways, then it could have been, you know, I was making a joke about something, and like people were talking about drugs. I was like, oh no, I never did that. Food was mine. I just like eat, like, and that was, you know, that and being funny were my coping mechanisms, and I'm grateful that it wasn't anything else, because who knows?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and I really think, just bringing it back to being a Christian, I think what helped being a Christian was putting it into the perspective of that. I find one of the greatest gifts of being a Christian, other than being saved, obviously, is that eternal perspective.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that being like, this might hurt now, but it's going to be okay, and I've got you. And I can see in really like low times in my life, that God's just looked after me.
But it was like you wouldn't, like, once you became a Christian, it's like, and it would have developed, but you would, like, I don't have to be lonely ever again.
Yeah, and just, I think that gave me real peace and a real understanding that this is going to be okay. Like, it's hard, but it's going to be okay. And, you know, my mum's going to be okay, and my dad's going to be okay, and I'm going to be okay, and we all are. So I'm, you know, very thankful. And not even just, I'm obviously thankful that God did that for me, but that He also looked after me while you're in it. And for me, it's that perspective piece. And like, not to get too big about, you know the word, but like that then shapes how your relationships are formed. So like, absolutely. You know, like navigating marriage could have been difficult, but the fact that Cuz and I are Christian, and that we had that base together, it was, you know, like when we did have challenges, you know, like we had the same playbook of how to.
It's like a floor that you can't go below sometimes. Like it's possible, but knowing that you have Jesus as your foundation, you know, you can, no matter how difficult it might get or how bad it might get, you're like, I'm not going past, like, below what the hope that Jesus gives me.
Yeah. And I think it's times when, you know, like, you're like, oh, this is too much. You know that Jesus, and that you're protected, and that you can, you know, you'll be okay, whatever that okay looks like. And I think maybe that's one of the things that my adolescence taught me, is that you're always okay. It's just that okay looks different.
Yeah.
Is there a particular point where, like you were saying, that you struggled sometimes with loneliness, being an only child and different things going on with your family, but then, like, a moment where you maybe realised, actually, I'm not alone? Was there a turning point where you realised that?
Not that I can think of, but I'll think about it. I just had really solid friendships, and I had,
That's cool.
yeah. And so my friend Jodie, as I said, who's still, a great friend. And that's, I think, and my friend Alison, who I will tell you, out of the two of us, I'm the quiet one. I always say that, and everyone's like, what? I go, yeah, I'm the quiet one. So just know that.
I can't imagine you two together. Oh my gosh.
Well, this is the thing. People would be like, oh, you two together. When it's just the two of us, we're actually very quiet and reflective and just, although the last time we went out together, it was just before lockdown. We were at a bar and I went to the toilet and came back, and she's like, right, we're going to do a runner. I will note that she is a minister's wife. And I go, what? She goes, quick, let's go. Then the back's turned, let's go. And I'm like, I'm in boots, mate. I can't run.
I love it as the first thing is about boots, not about this is the wrong thing to do.
Well, I kind of was trying to, anyway, she'd obviously paid the bill while I was in the toilet.
Yeah.
I was like, no, we can't do that. So I keep hitting that thing. I'm so sorry. So I feel like I feel like I would often feel alone in my situation, but never lonely. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So maybe
I'm alone, but not lonely.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So that's a gift.
Yeah. Well, you can be on your own somewhere and you're alone, but you know that you don't feel lonely.
Yeah.
Like no one's going to be there for you.
Yeah. I've always known there'd be people there for me.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah.
So were your parents weren't Christian?
No.
How did they find the whole going to church thing? Or
Yeah. So the easy answer is you'd have to ask them, but I do sort of know. My mum was happy that, it wasn't like I was roaming the streets or anything. My dad was a bit more cautious about what was happening and stuff. And my mum was like, well, you're not here, so you don't get to decide. We shouldn't say that, but that was probably what she said. And she just said she could be doing worse things. They're good people. She checked them out. So, I wasn't drinking. I wasn't swearing. Do you know what I mean? It's, but I often think about that now as, my kids invite non-Christian. I go, and even the kids went to a Christian preschool, and we at Easter we'd have instead of an Easter hat parade, they'd tell the Jesus story, and I'd be like, what do you guys think about this? You know what I mean? It's just I find that really interesting about, and I guess because I don't have that experience, but they were supportive. I think my mum was a bit freaked out when I decided to get married at 22. But I think that was a bit because that's what she had done.
Okay, yeah.
But again, you'd have to talk to her about that. That was a different kind of navigating that.
Yeah.
I always say that's the most rebellious thing I ever did was get married at 22.
Oh, we.
But they were okay with it, and we very much used our when we had our wedding. We had a gospel sermon when the kids got baptised, although Alana hasn't, and that's a bit of an issue. But
we'll get there.
let's get there. Number 3, whatever. She's gonna get dunked in the river at Easter.
Oh, that'd be
Spoiler
awesome.
alert.
Yeah, that's something we do at Sorrow Bible Church for anyone.
Yeah, sorry.
listening.
No, we just don't tell you.
We go down to a place called Swallow Rock and we do baptisms on Easter.
I made it just sound like we push her off a cliff or something. We're like, you're saved.
No,
Fine now.
That's not what we do.
Luckily you're saved. I'm killing you now. Yeah.
So, so we've, tried to make it and I was, I'm the Christian representative of the family. So if ever there's a crisis, I get called to pray and stuff. And so I just remember it is a funny story, but it's not going to sound like a funny story. So when my grandmother's very sick and she passed away, and I never, Luca was a baby and I was with another mum who I'm still very good friends with, but we were still just kind of getting to know each other. And we were down at Cronulla and she's like, how's your nan? And I was like, I think she's getting better. And I'm so clueless with that stuff. And then we were at the cafe and my mum rang and she said, your nan's passed away. And I just went, oh. And I'd known this woman 2 weeks and went, you have to take here's the car seat. You take Luca, like I'll be back. And I just kept saying to her, I can't see her. And she's like, yeah, you just do what you like and blah, 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 blah. Anyway, so I got there and the whole family's there and they have a chapel. She was at Calvary.
Yep.
So why I thought she was going to get, like, again, I'm just clueless with. So Calvary is a palliative care hospital. And one of my last memories of my nan was they have like a wine truck trolley that goes around for
truck. Wow.
and it's donated by the RSL. And so I just remember my nan, who was this very beautiful, regal woman, and they were like, Doris, now would you like Doris, would you like to have a sip of wine with the morphine? And she's like, yes, I will. And I was like, now that is a way to go. Like, just
wine, morphine.
That's right, just living a best life. And so we got there and the chaplain was there and so she was like, now we're just going to go in and say our final goodbyes to Doris now. Would anyone like to pray for her? And I looked around and I was like,
I'm the only one.
I'm like, well, I can't really let anyone else do it. So I remember going, and I'm really glad I did, and my aunt was there and so it's funny.
Amazing witness, by the way, Nikki. Yeah. Like, is anyone else a Christian there?
No.
Yeah.
I know, but I didn't feel it at the time. I was just kind of, and then this was, again, look, I have, you know me, like a funny sense of humour, but then, because I'd gone from, I'm not going in that room to being in that room. And then of all the people who was there, the guy said to me, can you just stay back and help pack up your grandmother's things? I was like, sure. I don't want to be here, but sure. Because I'm me and just being really polite and just like, anyway. And then so that's the family story. So they know and, they're respectful and, it's hard sometimes when you think about the eternal consequences of a non-Christian family. It's tough.
I remember my grandfather was passing away and he was into palliative care and I went and visited him and he's like, oh, I know you're a praying man. Yeah, I am actually. He's like, can you just send a few ones up to the big man for me? I'm like, yeah. And then I just said, do you want me to pray for you now, Grandpa? And he's like, oh, okay.
It's like, I didn't know I had to be in the room. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
I also remember, just on that, because one of the things, we've gone really deep. We've gone all around.
So what do we do on the Chip Lunch?
But it's a strange thing when someone's dying to know what to say. And that was the thing I really struggled with because it was like, and I'm just the person that's like, you'll be right. Yeah. You'll be fine. And I was like, yeah. And I remember one of my aunt's friends sent a card and said, and it was one, and you talk about witnessing, and it was like, dear Doris, thinking of you. And they said, sometimes when I can't even remember what it was, like troubled times or, in times of struggle, whatever it was, this verse brings me comfort. And it was John 3:16. And I was like, and that's how you witness. Like it just was what it was. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's how you do it. Yeah. Sorry, that's a tangent.
That's a cool story.
That's very cool.
Yeah, but I've always remembered that and tried to, I think the term people use now is give space. Have you heard that term? I really try to give it space. So I now try to give people space in whatever they're going through to just be like, yeah, talk, don't talk. I'll send funny memes or I'll do this or I'll do, like I know what I bring to a situation, which is humour. And so like I know people who are going through and I go, here's what I'm going to do for you. I'm not going to, you can tell me what's happening, but like you don't, I'll send you a funny TikTok or a funny meme or every couple of days. Yeah. And anyway, that's again tangent. Ask me a question.
Cool. Wow, all my questions just left my head. But anyway.
Okay.
Sorry, I've got one if you like.
Yeah, I've got one.
Okay.
You briefly touched on marriage there.
Yes.
Marriage at 22.
Yes.
How did you meet Cuz?
Do you really want to know this story?
Do I?
Suzuki.
He
not a
didn't
Vitara.
he didn't drive a Suzuki Vitara.
Jimny.
No, I don't even know what his first car was really. So we interestingly, I'm just thinking of the story. We, as I said, we went to the same church, but we were in different groups of friends. And for other reasons, I was like, I don't think that we would get along. So I just kind of kept my distance. And then my friend Alison, who I was talking to before, she started dating him. And this is why when you asked the question, I didn't realise this was going to be the answer. And so that's how like we met, kind of. But as I said, we kind of knew each other. And then they broke up, and Alison was like, you know what? I feel like you guys would be like really good together.
That's a good friend, hey?
And I was like, I don't know. And I said, I would never do that. She's like, yeah, but I just feel like you guys would be good together. And so we went on a date. I'll never forget it. I had again tried just really dolled up and tried to look nice. And then as I was walking
You did look nice.
Wait.
You did.
As I'm walking to meet him, it starts pouring. And like drowned rat Nikki. He's always very attractive. And then we went to, I can't remember, it used to be, you're both too young, but it was like a Christian, it was on like a Saturday night and it was like you'd go and there'd be a talk, but it was out at Homebush. It was like anyway. So we went there. That was like our first date.
Yeah.
And then, so that's how we met. Oh. We met through my best friend. It's always a great story. People go, I go, yeah, we're still friends. And she was bridesmaid.
It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. She's like, I think you should date him.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think many friends would do that. They'd be like angry and jealous and annoyed if you did that.
No, she was.
Especially if you were the next cab off the rank.
I really was. I wasn't.
Okay. Which just probably makes it a little bit better.
Yeah, but and then there was a part of me, so I had no plans to be married or like have how some people plan a life. Yeah. I never really planned a life. It all just kind of happened, and so. But I do remember going, I feel like this is going to be an important relationship. So yeah, that's how we met. And how do we stay together? I don't know.
Well, we talked about Jesus.
Yeah, well, that's right. We're very forgiving and loving of each other, and I don't know. He makes me laugh. He also really. I often will say, he's a great man with many fine qualities. And then I just am like, but can you work a remote? Can't work a remote. Just you know what? When you want to watch the start of a show that we're taping, don't rewind it. Just go into the library, select it's things like, and again, in the overall scheme of things, you go, if that's the worst thing I have to complain about my marriage, I'm okay. And also, you go back to the Jesus thing. You know you're not perfect. So I kind of go, well, I'm not going to yell about, not taking the coffee cup in. That's not, I just don't know why I said that, because he doesn't even drink coffee. When I'm not bringing my own coffee cups, do you know what I mean? I feel like there's a kind of leveler and in that acknowledgement of being sinful and
like your brokenness.
Yeah, in that brokenness, there's a real accepting of other people's brokenness, and I think maybe that's one of our strengths, is that I think in some ways love the broken parts of each other more. I know that sounds weird, but do you know what I mean? Or we support the broken parts to make ourselves whole in each other. So I know that there are things that are hard for him and vice versa, and so we just either, try and protect and, so for example, his thing is talking in front of people. Very scared of it. So the greatest gift he gave me on our wedding day was to stand up in front of everybody and say his vows. That was just the greatest thing, because it was just I didn't think that would happen. And now he gives presentations and, couldn't be prouder of him, because he's kind of, I've seen that growth. Nothing to do with me, unfortunately. I'd love to say that I sit at home and he's not going to listen to my critiques.
Yeah, so you paid attention to my training.
Yeah, that's right. The other day, I was doing a thing for work. I had to do a big presentation to the whole company. And I said, how do I look? And he's like, yeah, like great, good hair, and your makeup's a bit, your lipstick's a bit thing. And I went, you know what? Do you know when you stop? At the you look great. Like I go, I love everything until the lip. I go, you know what? I didn't need. He's like, yeah, but I go, no, I know, but just for future reference, just stop there because that was great. Everything up until there, like after there, not so great, but just stop there.
Yeah, I'd just be like, why'd you ask a question then?
Well, because I wanted to know, because I was about to have this like thing in front of the CEO of the company, and I was like, I just didn't want to look like an idiot, even though that was kind of my job at that time, was to look like an idiot. So anyway.
I have a question about a bit earlier than that.
Yeah.
What school did you go to?
You know the answer to this,
I know,
don't you?
yeah.
So which school do you want to talk about? So I went to in high school, I went to Carringvale High. I was the first year of selective, but I make it very clear that if I took the test today, I would not get into that school. It was when they were just letting anyone and their mother in.
Yeah.
And it was not the school for me. And I remember, so this is a fun story. So then I obviously had a leaning towards the arts and drama. And so I'd heard about this school at Newtown High School of the Performing Arts.
Yeah.
And it was at a time where we were looking at moving, and so my mum was like, let's go and check the school out and see what it's like. And so this was when I was in year 10, and I was going to go there for year 11 and 12. And the teacher went, what subjects do you do? She's like, you can start on Monday. Wow. I was like, okay.
Do you want to know about my performing arts?
And they were like, no. So I went in as an out of area, and I can't tell you the culture shock of because what had happened, the way they formed Newtown High School was Newtown Boys, which is one of the toughest schools in the area, and Petersham Girls, and they combined them and I think introduced the arts to try and subdue the masses.
Craziness.
Yeah.
And I just remember being like, what is happening? Like it was just a whole other world. Like it was a whole other world. So that's for 3 years I went to Newtown High School.
How did being a Christian in that change or help?
Really interesting, actually, because you would think it would be harder, but because they thought they were better than everyone else and more evolved and more like, yeah, man, like, you know, that's a cool choice, you know, and so...
So it was work before work?
Yeah. It was. They were really respectful of it and just like, and I'd be like, yeah, no, you know, no, I'm not interested in those drugs. And they'd be like, I respect your life choice. And I'd be like, thanks.
They really stalk like that?
I am thinking of one girl.
It's a parodied version.
Yeah. But, and then I just also remember like, and I make the joke with the kids now is that Alison, so then my friend Alison joined me for year 11 and 12. Oh. And so we were voted couple most likely to get married, ironically. And so we were our own group and we were our own support. And because we were so crazy, everyone just thought we were on drugs anyway. And this was our joke. We thought we were so cool, which I'm going to tell you this joke and you will know how cool we were. Yeah. We'd be like, yes, we're high on the Holy Spirit. Could you imagine? I would punch myself. I'm not joking. I say to the kids, I go, I'm high on the Holy Spirit. And they're like, Mom, I go, that's what you say, kids. I don't say that.
I'm high on Jesus.
I'm high on Jesus. But I will tell you this story because it's funny. We went, and my mum, funnily enough, was talking. So this is the kind of kid I was. We got invited, Alison and I got invited to this party, and I must have said to her, it's going to be a drug party. And I was like, but can we go? Yeah. And just this week, my mum was like, I don't know why I said yes. She goes, and I rang Alison's dad and I said, what do you think? And he was like, yeah, look, their response, we can, let him go. And so anyway, so I never forget, there's this terrace in Glebe, three tiers. The people were doing pot in the, so they still call it pot, in the kitchen. The middle level, I think, was ecstasy. I don't know what they were doing on top. Anyway, my friend and I were very responsible, and so we had gone to the local store and gotten some chips, country kettle chips, important for the story, and our own soft drink in case people would spike their drinks. Also, just know, kids aren't going to give away their drugs. So the drink spiking was not a thing. So I'm being me and I'm going around to the party and I'm like, would you like some chips? Would you like some chips? Would you like some chips? Just trying to, interact with anyone, and they're all just in their own worlds. This kid comes up to me and is like mumbling something, and I'm like, what? And he goes, I've got money, and like throws $20 at me. And I'm like, what? And he goes, are you the girl selling trips? Which is what ecstasy was called in the day.
Oh, right.
Oh, geez.
And I was like, oh no, and like pulled out the packet and went, I've got country kettle chips. I went, I'm so sorry, you've asked the wrong, I don't even know like what you're talking. Like I was like, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, that's all we have.
He was like, I've got like, and they were like, you should have taken his money. I was like, I just didn't know what was happening. So that's the kind of kid I was.
Okay. So what happens so you go to Caringbah High, then you go to Newtown High, and then you decide to move to Bathurst
Yes.
for university?
Yes.
Why?
So
Hang on, sorry, what was your performing arts at Newtown?
dancer? No. Drama.
Drama.
Yeah.
Okay.
I always like to say that and people go, what? I go, no.
It was like interpretive dance.
Yeah, well, we did at the talent. So if you ever want to see the most intense school talent quest of all time, go to a performing arts high school.
Yes. That would be.
So I'll never forget, one of the contestants was a lovely girl who came out in a lemon 3-piece suit. This is a child in high school, and a gold kitten heel, and sang The Greatest Love of All with no irony.
What's
like
the
this
song? Sorry.
I'm not going to sing it for you. You know
No,
The
no,
Greatest
no.
Love of All from Whitney Houston.
Oh, probably.
Anyway,
I'll look it up.
It's a power ballad. It's a classic.
Okay.
Put it in, Dave.
Put it in.
Yep.
Yeah. It's a power ballad. I'm not going to sing it because I'll do it disjustice. With no irony. So all these kids, and so Alison and I had come from a school where like the talent quest is where you have the fun and you do, you take the piss and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, no. All these kids like
out to kill it.
Out to kill it. And so we did this parody of a dance, like an interpretive dance, and we had one of our friends do the drums on the back, and everyone was just like, what? And we finished, and we started with the thing, and then we went into like 80s moves, and at the end there was just this silence, and then like what?
And you're like, where's the standing O?
That's right. We're like, well, but this is what a talent quest is. No, not at a performing arts high school.
Yeah, right.
And so I wanted to do a course called theatre media, and so I guess it goes back to the like God look, yes. Yeah, it's a great
in
song.
a 3-piece suit.
Lemon and a gold kitten heel. I can't
gold,
remember.
What's a gold kitten heel?
So it's a low heel on a pointed toe shoe.
Okay.
I can't remember what I did last week, but I can remember that girl's outfit. That's how traumatizing it was. And Nathan Foley, who used to be in High Five, came out in an electric blue suit and sang some jazz number that like we were never coming back from. Like it was just, it was a lot, right? It's just a lot. And we're like, throw pie in our face. Like it was just.
I would love that.
Yeah. So it was just, yeah. Anyway, and so talking before about, so my dream was to go to Charles Sturt University and do theatre media studies. And so I did this audition. Again, another funny story that I'm going to tell you. So I've one skill, barely that, which is to be funny or to act or whatever. I had written this piece that was funny but dark for my Year 12 project, and that was my audition piece. And then so we were there waiting for the audition. Someone came out and went, oh, they asked if I could sing. And we're like, what did you say? And she was like, I just said I didn't have anything prepared, and they kind of moved on. I was like, oh, okay, great. And so I do my piece about, I had to do 2 pieces, and I did the thing that I'd written and stuff, and it's, like, you kind of had to be a bit disheveled and stuff. Anyway, so at the end, they're like, and can you do anything else? And I was like, oh, I can sing. And guess what, guys? I cannot sing. And they were like, oh, okay. And I was like, can you sing something for us? And I was like, oh, I don't have anything prepared. And they went, that's okay, just make it up. And I was like,
make it up.
No.
So I sang some kind of Hicksville country version of Amazing Grace that I don't even know. Even I was like, this is not good. This is not great. Anyway, and then when I came out, my friend's like, why can't I see your bra strap? I was like, oh, like I hadn't fixed myself up after that. Anyway, it was a whole thing. So I got in via audition, but then my marks were terrible, and so I didn't get into the course. But I went up there to do an arts degree, and so, like you said, I was shattered. Like I was like, this is my dream, this is my life, this is all I've ever wanted to do.
Yeah.
But I got into the arts, so I still went up and did the arts degree with a thought to bridge across in the next year. And what was actually a blessing was I got up there and I hated it.
Oh.
It was the worst. Like, I remember one time we had to do a trust exercise where we all had to fall, you see those
like
bad movies.
fall.
Yeah, I was like, I have a bad back. I'm not, like, I was just like, no, my back is bad. I can't do that. Like, I hated every moment of it. And I was just like, okay, this is not for me. Like, so I'm really grateful. I feel like if I had got into that course, I just went, I cannot be this pretentious and like, I just can't do it for 3 years. I'll lose who I am. And so I came back to Sydney with a view to actually do teaching, but I got a job in the school holidays and never left. And then that's, started my career. So, that was my Bathurst experience. But what was the other story? Didn't I say that was maybe it was, anyway. That's my
Well, the
Bathurst.
only thing I was going to say is that we're at your time of departure.
Oh, no.
So do you want to keep going or do you want to...
5 more minutes and then we'll go.
Should we do a part 2?
Oh, I would love a part 2. Maybe a part 2 with Luca. I feel like Luca...
That's the second part of your life.
Yeah, that is true.
Your son, Luca. Let's do that.
Yeah.
Let's wrap it up. We're going to wrap up the chips for the moment.
Part 1 of
Part one of
gosh.
Nikki, and
What
part 2 will be next week.
Can I say, never before have I ever been more truly me and stolen, I cannot be encapsulated in one podcast. What is wrong with me? Why can't I be a normal person? No, please comment below.
You're a big enigma.
I'm a big something. Enigma, we'll go with that.
Well, we're going to be back soon, guys, with Nikki in next week.
Yes.
Having said that, Soul Revival apparel is going to be available.
Wow.
So you
Always
can
plug.
check it out on soulrevival.shop.
Wow.
This is just one of the shirts that I'm wearing, one of the Shock Absorber shirts. There's many other pieces. You can check them out. But and also check out the Shock Absorber podcast if you're interested. We also have our digital services. They're all on YouTube, all on your favorite podcast app. But for now, we're going to wrap it up and we'll be back with part 2 next week.